Hi, I'm Michael Day, a teacher, nature photographer, and traveler. This video is a celebration of travel. Included are excerpts from a number of the travel videos already included in my YouTube channel, and some to come. If you would like to contact me, at the very end of the video there is a slide with information about my blog. If you've seen some photos that you'd like and you'd like copies of, you can also let me know there. If you'd like to see some other videos, hit that little subscribe button in the lower right hand corner. Thanks for watching.
Wonder, curiosity, adventure. I'm constantly amazed by the world in which we live. It has so much to teach, so much to experience, so much natural beauty. Over the past 50 years, I've had the good fortune to sample a bit of it. This video commemorates locations visited recently, beginning in 2004, but follows our brief introductions to 16 special places, 4 from each of 4 continents. Note, photo storytelling of all 16 is shared on other YouTube editions. The 4 continents are North America, South America, Africa, and Asia. Omitted from this video are locations in Europe, where Susan and I lived and traveled during the early 1970s, and a visit to China. Separate videos are planned. For each location, I share what makes the place special, when's the best time to visit, and who might especially enjoy this trip. Let's begin. Why Yellowstone? First national park in the U.S., large in size, around 100 miles north to south and 60 miles east to west, home to more geysers and hot springs than any other place on Earth. It is also home to a wonderful assortment of wildlife. The northeast section of the park is known as the Little Serengeti. Yellowstone is also close to home, only an 8-hour drive. Pre-COVID outbreak in 2020, I spent nearly 200 days in Yellowstone, hiking seemingly endless trails and exploring and photographing its many features. Best time to visit. Yellowstone can be visited year-round. Winter is especially enchanting, but I prefer to visit in the late spring and early fall, when crowds have thinned, weather is comfortable, and wildlife active. Who should visit? Road trips to Yellowstone are wonderful. For all but plan ahead. Make reservations early and spend at least 3 days exploring the park. Why Denali? Located in Denali National Park and Preserve in Alaska, indigenous peoples call Denali the High, Tall, Great One. Elevation, 20,310 feet, highest peak in North America. Of the tallest peaks on each of the 7 continents, Denali ranks 3rd. But Denali is actually the tallest mountain on land in the world, even taller than Everest. Measured from base to summit, it rises about 18,000 feet. It is spectacular. Best time to visit. Unfortunately, only a third of visitors to Denali National Park and Preserve actually see the summit. Denali is so massive, it generates its own weather, commonly resulting in cloud cover. We visited for 3 days in early August and had wonderful views of the mountain. Who should visit? Though a challenge given distance and, at times, harsh weather, Denali National Park and Preserve is open year-round and well worth it. Why Churchill? The answer to this question is easy. If you wish to see polar bears up close and in the wild, you travel to Churchill, polar bear capital of the world. Nestled along the shallow westerly side of Hudson Bay, Churchill is a small town of about 900 people, 2/3 indigenous. Today, roughly 30,000 polar bears remain in the wild, about half living in the vicinity of Churchill. Note, Churchill lies in the southern limit of where polar bears are able to live, year-round. Generally, the ice throughout the Hudson Bay completely melts by early August, forcing bears inland, and does not begin freezing again until early November. Best time to visit. Churchill can be visited year-round, but our early November visit was planned to catch the polar bears congregating on shoreline awaiting the freeze of ice. Who should visit? For the month of November, I especially recommend visiting Churchill for people able to reserve seating on a custom-made Tundra buggy, where polar bears can be viewed safely and comfortably. Why rafting the Grand Canyon? Each year, up to 5 million people visit the Grand Canyon, located in the U.S. state of Arizona, but only about 25,000 experience the canyon by river. During our 180-mile, week-long voyage on the Colorado River, we experienced the excitement of running rapids, the wonder of exploring historical and indigenous sites, lovely natural features such as canyons, slots, springs, and waterfalls, and most memorable, experiencing firsthand the geological wonder of the steep canyon walls. Rafting the Colorado River for a week with an outfitter such as Hatch River Expeditions, among the first rafting outfitters in North America, is one of the best ways to experience the Grand Canyon. Best time to raft. Generally April to October. We rafted in early June. Weather was comfortable and river easily navigable. Who should raft? I did so with 29 other rafters, most in their 60s and 70s. No rafting skills required. All folks needed was a sense of wonder, adventure, and willingness to camp each evening along a beach beneath fascinating canyon walls. Why Galapagos? Made up of 13 major volcanic islands and numerous smaller ones, the Galapagos are located approximately 600 miles west of mainland Ecuador, where 3 ocean currents meet. The islands were visited by Charles Darwin in 1835 and helped shape his theory of evolution. The remoteness and geographic isolation of these islands allows for a diverse array of plant and wildlife to occur, like nowhere else on Earth. And for the most part, wildlife is so tame you can swim with sea lions and dolphins or observe close-up beautiful birds, tortoises, iguanas. We toured the islands for a week on a lovely catamaran. Best time to visit. The islands can be visited year-round, though the best months are December to May, when temperatures comfortable, visibility good, and conditions pleasant for swimming, hiking, and wildlife viewing. We visited in May, and it was delightful. Who should visit? Everyone. But visitor numbers and boats allowed are controlled. So, recommend reservations be made in advance with a reputable tour company. Why the Peruvian Amazon? Susan and I were attracted to the Peruvian Amazon to travel again with Aqua Expeditions, a small, wonderful cruise ship company, and to experience the Amazon River and its rainforest. The Amazon rainforest is the largest and most biodiverse tropical rainforest in the world, and the second largest portion of this rainforest is located in Peru, where you can observe a number of animals, especially sloths and birds, only experienced in visits to zoos. Note, rainforests cover close to 7% of the world's land surface, but produce 20% of our Earth's oxygen, and are home to over half of all animal and plant species on Earth. We spent a week exploring the shoreline of two large rivers that flow into the Amazon near the town of Nauta, the Maranon and the Ucayali, that border Pacasamaria National Reserve. While exploring the region, we visited local villages, went for jungle walks, swam, kayaked along the river, and even fished for piranha. Best time to visit. Given crowds and weather patterns, there are two seasons on the Amazon: dry and rainy. We were advised May and early June were good times to schedule our trip. We visited in May, had a bit of rain. After all, it is a rainforest. But for the most part, we were very comfortable. Who should visit? Lovely area to visit and highly recommended for all. Susan and I were reluctant visitors to Machu Picchu. By 2018, up to 5,000 people were visiting Machu Picchu daily, over 1.5 million people each year, visiting a site whose ruins rest on a ridge no longer than the size of 6 American football fields. But we did visit, and were truly moved by the experience. Machu Picchu deserves to be included as one of the 7 human-constructed wonders of the world. Without use of wheel, draft animals for pulling, knowledge of iron or steel, or system of writing, the Inca were masters of creativity in engineering and agriculture. Constructed in the mid-1400s, on a small saddle perched between 2 mountains, abandoned suddenly 100 years later, and rediscovered in 1911, Machu Picchu is testament to the beliefs and ingenuity of the Inca people. Best time to visit. Given crowds and weather patterns, best time to visit is late spring and early fall. We visited in May. Crowds manageable, weather good. Who should visit? General health and conditioning are issues to consider. Elevation is high, steps many. Why Torres del Paine? I first noticed the 3 towers that make up the centerpiece of Torres del Paine National Park while thumbing through a National Geographical travel book titled Journeys of a Lifetime, 500 of the world's greatest trips. I was struck by the awesome beauty of this very unique landscape, located in southern Patagonia near the southern tip of Chile. Fortunately, Susan and I were already captivated by the shape of this elongated country in South America and planned to visit, so we penciled in a stay at Torres del Paine. It did not disappoint. We found a lovely hotel, the Tierra Patagonia, architecturally grand in its own right, with beautiful views of Torres del Paine peaks. Each day we explored the area with guides from the hotel, including a boat ride to the Great Glacier, but the most memorable excursion was a hike to the base of the Torres themselves. Truly an amazing place to visit. Best time to visit: November to early March, summertime in the southern hemisphere. But we visited in April. Less crowds and weather still comfortable. Who should visit? Available to all, the area can be enjoyed by everyone, but hiking to the base of the Torres is a 13-mile round trip. Why the Nile? A cruise up the Nile River in Egypt, from Aswan, 200 miles north to the city of Cana, was Susan's idea, a special trip for a special birthday. We traveled with Abercrombie and Kent Tours, A&K. We're assigned a wonderful guide named Aza, cruised the Nile on Sunboat 2, perhaps the most comfortable boat ever, and journeyed with a very congenial group of 18 fellow travelers. We visited 10 ancient temples during our week-long cruise. Temples dedicated to gods, celebrating lives of pharaohs, and covered with symbols, understood by the people who created this rich civilization along the banks of the Nile River, developed in large part because of the annual flooding and the rich soil left behind for growing crops. The adventure also included a few days in Cairo, where we toured the relatively private and grand pyramids at Dashur. What a wonderful trip and grand opportunity to learn about ancient Egypt. Best time to cruise the river. Between October and April, weather not too hot. We traveled in late March. Who should visit? Available to all. The ancient land of the pharaohs can be enjoyed by everyone. Lots of low-impact touring and comfortable cruising. Why the Serengeti? Of all the places visited, the Serengeti is my favorite. Susan and I first visited in 2006, and I've returned 3 times, though I love visiting Yellowstone National Park in the U.S. Sections sometimes referred to as the Little Serengeti. There is nothing so exciting as experiencing the actual Serengeti, located in Serengeti National Park in northwest Tanzania. The Serengeti is home to the largest assortment of wildlife in the world, including elephants, giraffes, cheetahs, lions, leopards, and to the annual Great Wildebeest Migration. Note, the Great Wildebeest Migration is the annual journey of a collection of animals that for some cover over 1,000 miles, generally moving clockwise from the southern Serengeti Plains to the lush Masai Mara grasslands in the north, and then return. Nearly 2 million animals participate. Wildebeest, plains zebras, Thomsons, Grant's gazelles, and the large but very agile elands. Best time to visit. Though Serengeti National Park is open year-round, March through May can be tricky times to travel due to muddy roads caused by recent rains. I visit mid-June to early July, popular tourist months for experiencing the Great Wildebeest Migration. Who should visit? Anyone and everyone who has the opportunity. Why Menimba? Susan and I first visited East Africa in 2004, a trip Susan and I longed to take and finally committed to after reading about a small wildlife safari camp located just outside the entrance of the Masai Mara National Game Reserve, located in southern Kenya. We loved it. The camp, called the Batulur, was owned and operated by Conservation Corps Africa, an ecotourism company formed to develop wildlife sanctuaries across Africa. While there, Susan read about other properties operated by the company. One was a lodge on a small island up the northeast coast of Zanzibar called Menimba. It looked beautiful. Then and there we decided to visit the island next time we traveled to East Africa. 2 years later, we visited Menimba, and like the Batulur camp, we fell in love with it. Recognized as one of the finest lodges in all of Africa, returning in 2008 and 2016. Best time to visit. In July to September, the weather is dry and comfortable, not too hot. We've often visited in early July. Who should visit? Anyone and everyone who has the opportunity. Why trek to the summit of Kilimanjaro? Summiting 19,341-foot Mount Kilimanjaro, the tallest peak in Africa, was something I longed to do since I visited northern Tanzania and got my first glimpse of the cloud-covered mountain. It was also the most challenging adventure of my life. My 4 trekking companions and I chose the 7-day, 6-night, 37-mile Machame route. A beautiful but strenuous route. Our outfitter was Trek to Kili, known for its positive treatment of clients and its hard-working mountain crew. Push for the summit began at midnight the morning of day 6. For the next 7 hours, we ascended by headlamp, reaching the summit around 9:30. Spent about 90 minutes resting and taking photos, then trekked another 7 hours downhill to our camp. It was a long, grueling day, trekking more than 15 hours, and I was extremely tired, with blisters on both feet, but very pleased at our success. Best time to trek to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. There are 2 trekking seasons, January to March and June to October. The latter with less probability of encountering snow. We trekked in early June. Who should trek? Anyone in fairly good health. I was 71. And those willing to prepare for both the demands of the trek and the high altitude. Why trek to base camp Mount Everest? Everest is the tallest mountain in the world, 29,035 feet. Chomolungma in Tibetan, goddess mother of the earth. The south base camp in Nepal sits at 17,598 feet. When I retired the first time from the University of Wyoming, Susan asked what I'd like for a retirement gift. Without hesitation, I said to trek to Mount Everest Base Camp. While trekking to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro was challenging and satisfying, trekking to Base Camp Everest was the most delightful and rewarding adventure of my life. I recall fondly the numerous suspension bridges crossed, the warmth of the Sherpa people encountered each day, and the mystical ambiance emanating from Buddhist art, markings, and culture. Unlike Kili, where a single mountain dominates the landscape, here the trekker is surrounded by peaks, many taller than Denali, the highest peak in North America. It's just beautiful. Best time to trek to Base Camp Everest. There are 2 trekking seasons, February through May and September through October. I trekked the 2nd and 3rd week of October. Cool at night, clear and mild weather during the day. Who should trek? Anyone, provided they are in fairly good health and prepared to spend a few weeks outdoors. The trek is long, 35 miles around 12 days, but not overly strenuous. Why Halong Bay? A few years ago, Susan and I planned a visit to Vietnam, spending a few days in the north, around Hanoi, a few days in the south, around Saigon, or today Ho Chi Minh City, and cruising the Mekong River. We booked our trip with Jakarta Travel, who specialize in private luxury tours. Our agent encouraged us to spend a few nights cruising Halong Bay while in northern Vietnam. We booked a private 2-night, 3-day cruise with Baya Classic Cruises, a small 1-cabin, traditional Indochina junk wooden boat. The cruise was magical. Wonderful staff, private beach lunches, opportunity to swim or kayak, and visits to caves and villages. In area, Halong Bay covers about 600 square miles and includes nearly 2,000 cars islets. A community of around 1,600 people live on Halong Bay in fishing villages such as Vongphing. Best time to visit, October to December, though a bit crowded. The weather is pleasant, low chance of rain. We visited in early November and conditions were very comfortable. Who should visit? Available for everyone. Enjoy! Why the Mekong? For many of us baby boomers who grew up in the U.S. during the mid-1960s and early 1970s, the Mekong is a strange, frightening, and mysterious river associated with the Vietnam War and with the 1979 American epic war film Apocalypse Now. The world's 12th longest river, over 2,000 miles in length, the source of the Mekong is on the Tibetan Plateau. It flows south through China to Vietnam, where it empties into the South China Sea. Today, visitors tend to explore small sections of the river. Susan and I did a few years back. We booked a week-long cruise up the Mekong from Mai Do in Vietnam north to Kampong Cham, Cambodia, roughly 150 miles. Along the way, we surveyed the banks of the river in skiffs, made numerous visits to local villages, explored the Tonle Sap River, and spent a day visiting Phnom Penh. Our ship was the award-winning Aqua Mekong, 20 rooms, a capacity for 40 guests, and an outstanding staff. Half of our guides were Vietnamese, half Cambodian. Best time to visit. November to April is the dry season. We visited in early November and conditions were mild and comfortable. Who should visit? Available for everyone. Lovely. Why Angkor? When Susan and I finished our Mekong cruise, the return flight to the U.S. was from Cambodia's Siem Reap. Our Jakarta travel agent suggested we spend a second night and visit the ancient ruins of Angkor, once capital city of the Khmer Empire. She arranged for a lovely room at Heritage Suites, contracted a resident photographer and tuk-tuk driver to guide us. We toured for 10 hours, exhausted, exhilarated, vowing to return one day and continue exploring the temples at Angkor. Note, constructed in the 12th century and only a few miles from Siem Reap, there are more than 70 major Khmer temples and buildings located in Angkor Archaeological Park. One of the highlights of the day was visiting the Temple of Ta Prohm. We arrived by tuk-tuk at 5:45 a.m. First people there, so had the grounds to ourselves. Truly amazing. This temple may be best known for the silk cotton trees, some likely over 400 years old, that have their roots in the temple's building blocks, seemingly part of the temple itself. Though Susan and I missed spending either sunrise or sunset at the Temple of Angkor Wat, a major tourist to-do, we were still treated to the unmistaken majesty of a few of the temples of Angkor, and very much look forward to our return. Best time to visit, November to April, again the dry season. We visited in early November. Crowds weren't too bad, weather not too hot. Who should visit? Again, available for all, but caution. Often a lot of walking, and the area can be warm and humid. Advise planning your visit for at least 3 days. Hire a guide and use of a tuk-tuk with driver.
That's our video. If you saw a photo you liked and wished a copy, visit my blog
at michael-day.org, where you can also contact me. The blog address may also be a useful site for those who would like to further examine the link between adult education, wonder, curiosity, adventure, and travel. Happy travels.